"Oh boy, the new Eddie Redmayne movie," said absolutely nobody ever. Describing convoluted modern genre movies as being similar to bad fan fiction has become such a common criticism, even I'm getting goddamn sick of hearing it, but where it fits, and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is far and away the closest thing to approximating the grotesque, incestuous fuckpile that defines the deeper recesses of modern fanfic culture ever to find its way to a movie screen. It's a Doctor Who meets Pokemon mashup rewritten into a tangential Harry Potter prequel. How did we get so lucky? Now, it's become pretty clear that the lasting effects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe experience paying off huge are going to be with us for a long, long time. Shared continuity is the name of the game for big franchise movies, and prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and side stories are now all grist for the blockbuster mill. And no level of deep lore bullshit is going to be too fucking obscure to throw up on screen and see if it sticks. Case in point, here we've got a Potter prequel that deigns to offer up the riveting backstory of the guy who wrote one of Hogwarts' zoological textbooks. Yeah, and they're already planning 4 more of these things. I mean, Jesus, if they ever decide to tell us where that talking hat came from, I assume it's going to take a 15-episode Netflix series. Anyway, the premise here is that Eddie Redmayne's Newt Scamander is a wizard animal lover who's been traveling the world collecting and studying magical critters so he can write a book convincing the other wizards not to be afraid of them. Why are they afraid? What brought Scamander to this vocation? I don't fucking know, and the movie doesn't care to elaborate. Look, I'm sure it's all laid out piecemeal and makes sense in the appendices of something or in Pottermore, but folks, I review movies, not whatever J.K. Rowling scribbles on a cocktail napkin every time our house needs a new edition. And I was only half joking, by the way, about Scamander basically being Doctor Who Pokemon trainer. The character is such a knockoff, it's practically plagiarism. He's a tweedy British guy whose personality is wall-to-wall quirky affectation. He flits in and out of trouble on his own vague agenda while picking up and discarding goofy sidekicks, including a lovable wide-eyed oaf and a pair of quirky, adorkable hot chicks, and he does his business by way of a base of operation that looks modest on the outside but is bigger on the inside. Now, in the story proper, Scamander shows up in 1920s New York for reasons he keeps secret without a clear rationale as to why, and through a supremely hackneyed plot device winds up having to recapture all of his creatures after they escape, a development that seemingly exists solely to pad out the runtime by turning the first 2 acts of the movie into a lazy Jumanji ripoff, and to make sure that our Weasley, stammering, mincing fop of a hero can cuddle a fluffy animal long enough to complete the Frankenstein's monster of Tumblr bait that is Redmayne's characterization. It is most certainly not there because the narrative somehow demands it. In case you were wondering where all of the promised Potterverse world building would be in this glorified bug hunt, the rest of the film is built around a subplot with Catherine Waterston as a disgraced female wizard cop trying to suss out the connections between an anti-witchcraft hate group, a mysterious dark force terrorizing the city, and a proto-Voldemort supervillain who's gone missing from Europe. Ooh, is there a big important bad guy hiding somewhere in the tertiary cast? Gee, I don't know. Have you seen any previous Harry Potter movie? But the thing is, this secondary storyline, which, as tends to be the case even in the good Harry Potter movies, kind of blunders ahead right at the end and decides it was supposed to be the main story after all at the last possible minute, is actually interesting. It feels genuinely fresh after 8 fucking Hogwarts movies. Waterston's Tina Goldstein is instantly one of the most interesting characters in the franchise. Alison Sudol as her psychic sister Queenie is a constant delight, and she has fascinating chemistry with Dan Fogler as Scamander's unwitting muggle sidekick. That guy never gets the credit he deserves. And anytime Fantastic Beasts stops and becomes about these 3 characters, you could easily fool yourself into thinking you're having a good time. They're that appealing. I mean, sure, you're still gonna have the problem that the weird Prohibition-era setting and the underground jazz club aesthetic of some scenes basically means the movie becomes one of those things where it's a metaphor for persecuted minorities that still has almost entirely white people in the cast, but seriously, the sidekicks are so much more intriguing, and their storyline is so much more theoretically compelling, it's fucking baffling that they aren't the main feature. I mean, holy shit, you've got basically Hermione but also Agent Carter right there in the lineup, and you decide to build the whole movie around the shouty guy from Jupiter Ascending? I mean, seriously, for real? All the pieces are there to basically do the Untouchables, but with wizards, and instead you went with having the least appealing, supposedly noteworthy actor currently working run around through a bunch of been there, done that CGI bullshit? What the fuck, guys? But, yeah, apparently they did exactly that, so what we're left with is honestly a pretty dull, dreary, uninspired, overall surprisingly shitty movie with sort of the idea for a good movie hiding in the middle of it, and hoping that finishing strong will make up for the rest of it kinda sucking. And look, I get wanting any excuse to dive back into the Harry Potter universe, believe me, and maybe for the profoundly devoted among you, the musical cues and the general wizard stuff coming back, plus the handful of good characters in search of a better film will be enough for you to get through it, but for me, it was a fucking slog. Yeah, I'm sorry, gang, it's just a bad movie. 1.5 stars, please consider maybe waiting a week so maybe I don't have to do this 4 more goddamn times.